All right, so this video is going to be talking about how we go about programming acceleration work as part of a rehab running progression, whether it is a hamstring strain, quad strain, coming back from some type of knee injury or surgery. So there's a lot of different factors that go at play here. Now, what I will say as we go through this, if you are one of my clients watching this, this will be at the beginning of your program as kind of a general overview, but then there will be another specific video for the drill that I want you to specifically. But I want anyone that is either my client or that is just kind of found this online to watch this if you're going through this process. So when we're looking at the rehab running process for acceleration, now I've talked a little bit about before, like in the context of hamstring strain injuries, there are some schools of thought that say you can have it all be acceleration based, which I'm not saying is wrong, or you can have some that are going to be, they build it up from an upright running standpoint and then introduce acceleration. I would say I typically am more of the latter, where I generally have guys build up a little bit more like linearly over like 40, 50 yards to gradually build up that general intensity of like 75, 80%, and then I add acceleration work in. But it doesn't mean it's not appropriate in certain cases to take a more acceleration approach to running. But these are just some general kind of tips that I found where whether you're introducing it after already doing some linear running or you're doing it from the get-go, some things to follow at the kind of initial phases of rehab. So really the big thing more than anything is no hard start. Unless it's specified in your program, like from a training standpoint or whatnot. But initially, I do not want people coming off the line hard. There's a lot of joint or of force that gets put into the ground. And typically by the time that we're starting to introduce acceleration, we are not ready for these very hard accelerations. So we're going to kind of come back to that at certain points, but I just want it to be a very gradual, as we kind of talk about here, you're accelerating over the distance. So in certain cases, I might not even put a percentage on it. I might just say, hey, listen, we have the distance to be kind of our gauge of our intensity. So you're starting here, you're accelerating over 10 yards, 15, you're accelerating over 15. And again, the further you accelerate, the faster speed you're going to achieve. So that's what I really want people to think about, whether my client or someone watching this online, is you are accelerating over that distance. You are not trying to get right to that intensity that you want at the end right from the get-go. You are accelerating over it more than anything. The next thing here is start stance. So again, this will be denoted if you're a client of mine in the program that we are developing for you. But generally, I will start in a higher start stance and then gradually work to a lower stance or a more non-linear. So a lateral start, a lateral shuffle, whatever that might be. But generally, we're going to start in a high split. So in a high split, might not be able to see it here, but you're going to be essentially in this position here. So I have my left leg is forward. I'm on my toes, my other foot, which is just right behind my front leg. And then from there, all I'm going to do, which I'm going to talk about here, is I just tell guys, I want you to focus on just focus on turning over your feet. I don't want you thinking about, you're not trying to get a big push with one leg. You're not trying to reach forward with the other one and whatnot. That historically does not go well. Guys will just start to, they won't feel comfortable doing it, especially right out of the gate from an injury standpoint. So I think about just telling them, like, listen, turn over. Just think about turning over your feet. Not like really fast, but just think about just turning over your feet. And again, I think in general, accelerating over the distance and turning over of the feet typically seems to be some of the better cues that I've found to give to individuals. And then again, as we go through that process, you can start being a little more lenient of like, hey, listen, okay, we can kind of go a little bit harder to start, a little bit like we've definitely find ways. But initially, early on, these are some of the general cues I want you to focus on. So again, if you have a 10-yard sprint from a high split, you're starting high, and you are essentially kind of just like falling into, again, that's another thing too, from a stance standpoint, I'm going to put here falling start, because you kind of go from a static high split and go. Or what I like to do initially is I like to have guys do like a high falling start. So again, they're here and they're kind of just falling forward. They're getting their weight distributed into that more horizontal position that they can then utilize as part of their acceleration work. So that's another big thing to be aware of. So again, accelerating over 10 yards, accelerating over 15, over 20. And again, the longer distance you accelerate over, the higher speed you're going to attain. And you want to make sure that what I tell them too is, if you look up here, it's a gradual decel. So take this 10-yard one here, for example. It's a 10-yard deceleration. I might tell them, hey, listen, you are staying low through that 10 yards there. And then you are decelerating nice and easily over those 15 yards. I might not even say, hey, take 15 yards of decel. Just say, hey, take a gradual deceleration start. Because again, especially in a hamstring case, what we do not want is a very abrupt deceleration early on to put more braking force on that hamstring. So again, just things to be aware from a deceleration, unless it's specified, again, if you're a client of mine, unless it's specified in your program on how short of a decel I want, it's a very gradual deceleration. Take your time slowing down. Get your lower body used to that movement more than anything. So again, these are just some general kind of rules of thumb, coaching cues that I found when we're going through acceleration work, what you really want to focus on. And again, acceleration work is much more of that kind of horizontal position more than anything, versus upright running is again, upright. And I am not saying that I am, more in favor of one versus the other. I've just happened to found personally a little more success and easier to control certain things in the upright running progression, because naturally early on, when you put a lot of athletes in that acceleration position, their natural instinct is to come out hot out of the gate and with a good amount of force, because that's what they've done all up until this point. So just again, some things to think about as you're going through this process.